How would my review of The Revenant, directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, an adventure drama that's based on the real-life tale of frontiersman Hugh Glass as he is forced to survive the extreme winter elements of an 1820s unsettled region of a Louisiana Purchase landscape after being ferociously mauled by a grizzly bear and is left for dead by his fellow hunters. Now, as you all probably know, The Revenant is Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu's follow-up to his film that came out last year, and that is Birdman, which won Best Picture earlier this year and was one of my favorite films of last year. And speaking of Academy Awards, this film does star Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays Hugh Glass, and some people have speculated once again that this might be the film where Leonardo DiCaprio gets that so coveted award, but I disagree. At the very most, he'll get nominated, but in terms of winning, I just don't think that's going to happen. This is just not that kind of film. I'll talk about Leonardo DiCaprio's performance a little later, but really, this is a director's film. And if anyone is the star here, it would be Inarritu himself, and of course, Emmanuel Lubezki, who's the cinematographer. Emmanuel Lubezki is one of the best cinematographers, if not the best cinematographer in the world right now, because the cinematography in this film is absolutely impeccable. And knowing that it was all done with natural lighting, I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, that's just, who's done that? The film opens up to this jaw-dropping, incredibly well choreographed, incredibly extensive battle scene that is gritty, it's nasty, it's absolutely everything a scene of this sort should be. This is definitely one of the best directed films that I've seen all year. It's definitely the best looking film that I've seen all year, and it's one of the better films that I've seen this year. One thing that I mentioned earlier was Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's a very physically demanding performance. It's a great performance even, but it's just not the kind of performance that is usually Academy Award worthy, or at least it doesn't fit the mold of what usually gets an Academy Award. He really doesn't say all that much throughout the film, but again, it is a physically demanding performance, so in that regard, it does have my respect because he is having to portray this beaten and battered survivalist, and he looks like he's just on the brink of death. And by watching him, you would honestly think that Leonardo DiCaprio was mauled by a bear in that scene. You thought it might look bad in the trailers? It's freaking horrifying in the movie. That bear beats the utter shit out of Leonardo DiCaprio, and there's even a shot where the bear's standing over him, basically saying, "Bitch, I dare you to get up," and just smacks him around some more, just not even needing to. And I guarantee you that bear's probably going to get an Academy Award before Leonardo DiCaprio does. And one last thing that I want to note about Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is that I did feel that physical struggle that he was feeling. Not that emotional struggle, which I will talk about a little later, but that physical struggle, because every time he had to face the cold, every single time he got hit by something, or every single time somebody was doctoring a wound of his, I felt some of that pain. Great performance, great makeup and effects. Now, if I had to pick a performance that is a standout for me, it would be Tom Hardy's portrayal as Fitzgerald. And Fitzgerald is a real cold, calculating asshole, and he's somebody who would definitely feed you to the wolves, or in this case, the Native Americans who are pursuing them to save his own life. He's very much motivated by self-interest, though that does not mean that he is not somebody who will not show just a little bit of compassion given the circumstance. I found Fitzgerald to be the most interesting character in the film, and therefore Tom Hardy is given more to do versus somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio, who's playing Hugh Glass, who, again, doesn't say a whole lot in the film. One other performance that I want to mention is Domhnall Gleeson's, and the reason why I'm mentioning him is because apparently everyone loves talking shit about him. I think he's a good actor. He's got range. Whether you look at Ex Machina, Star Wars, Frank, The Revenant, Brooklyn, he plays different characters and gives different performances each and every time. So I think he's good, and I think he gives a great performance here. Maybe it's because he's a redhead, people like talking shit about him, I don't know. Moving on to something that is a positive yet can be seen as a negative, and that this film is very cold and very objective in the way it portrays its characters and what you see on screen. And it's even so much so that the film doesn't even rely heavily on a score to tell you how to feel, or when it does, it's very embryonic and subdued, so it's not very manipulative. But given its sensibility, I never really felt attached to any of the characters, and that's something that I would have liked to have done. However, I'm not entirely convinced that I'm even supposed to. I don't think the film is really asking us to sympathize with anyone. It's just asking us to watch and give our perceptions. And that's essentially it. Now, a few times throughout the film, we do get an insight into Leonardo DiCaprio's character's psyche, and what we see is something that is filled with surreal symbolic imagery. So in other words, it's not quite clear of what everything means, at least not at first glance. Overall, The Revenant is directed brilliantly, the camera work is absolutely impeccable by Lubezki, and it does serve a purpose. It's not just there to look pretty. The visuals are immersive, and this is one of the best looking films that I've ever seen. So I'm going to give The Revenant a very, very light 4.5 out out of 5. If you're somebody who has seen The Revenant, then do let me know your thoughts on it, and as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.